Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success podcast with your host, Coach BZ, where we help you lead with purpose and succeed with impact. If you're ready to grow into the kind of leader others want to follow, this podcast is for you. If you're determined to elevate your success and leave a lasting legacy, this podcast is for you. As my mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell reminds us, everything rises and falls on leadership. Our goal is simple: to inspire you, challenge you, and equip you with insights that can transform the trajectory of your leadership journey. Welcome aboard to another episode of the Leadership and Success podcast with Coach BZ.
The United States military has produced some of the finest leaders in the world. Retired Navy Captain Dana R. Gordon shares insights into what it takes to develop and train a team as a leader and mentor. Written from years of experience, Team is perfect for the boardroom or small business looking to build their brand. Unlike many books claiming this is the way to do things, Team is a subtle suggestion of what has worked, what can work, and what might work as you tailor the information to your specific business and throughout your own personal career. Team. Training, education, and mentorship. Available now.
All right, everyone, welcome to another very special edition of the Leadership and Success podcast. I am your host, Coach BZ, and we have a very special guest waiting for us in the green room as we speak. So to get started, like we always do, we have to start with our moment of gratitude. As everybody knows, for this entire month, every single day, I've been really grateful for Black History Month. It's February in the United States, and this is Black History Month, and I am really grateful for the contribution of all of the African American and what they've done really to build America, our country. I love this book and I highly recommend it. African American First, famous, little known and unsung triumph of Blacks in America. I believe African American built America, and I believe that Black history is American history. So I'm so grateful for that. All right, let me see if I can properly introduce our guest today. We're going to be speaking to now retired Captain Dana Gordon, U.S. Navy. From flying more than 3,500 mishap-free hours in the SH-60B Seahawk to commanding USS Iwo Jima LHD-7. I showed you the picture during the intro, and leading more than 3,250 sailors and Marines, to serving in the Pentagon, to leading crisis response for 5 major hurricanes, to directing engineering operation in industry, to offering leadership books that develop the next generation. So Captain Dana Gordon is the definition of mission-focused, people-centered leadership, and is the best-selling author of Team and Lead. We're going to be talking about those 2 books in just a moment. And he joins us live to break down what leadership truly looks like in the cockpit, on the bridge, in crisis, and in corporate boardroom. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please help me welcome to the Leadership and Success podcast, the one and only Captain Dana Gordon. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today, Captain?
I am great, BZ. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. It's a great honor and privilege, sir, to be talking to you today. Maybe to get started, what is one thing you are grateful for today, sir?
For me, I'm always grateful for health, family and friends. For me, especially you wake up, everybody always jokes, if you wake up every day, that's another great day. But, having done time in the military, a lot of folks, don't have that opportunity. So I'm grateful for that as always grateful for my family and friends and those who continue to support me, love and support and all the things that go in with that, and being able to communicate with them. And it's a healthy thing as well.
That is so wonderful. And what is one thing maybe that most people don't know when they first meet you?
I'm a pretty open book. I don't know that there's too many things. I guess if somebody doesn't, the first time they meet me, then maybe they just don't know all the things that I've done, and I take pride in that. I've accomplished a lot, and like I
Yes.
said, I'm grateful for that. But I think that's probably the one thing as I meet people and we have those conversations, it gets
Yes.
into, well, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you did that. So, but again, a lot of pride in the things that I have done. So I think that's for me is the biggest thing.
Yeah, talking about things that you've done, it's quite a amazing career because you started on Georgia Tech, right, as an electrical engineer, and then you became a naval aviator. And I think it's the dream of most sailor I know to be flying. Maybe it's because of Top Gun or something, but anyway, we have a lot of frustrated wannabe pilot in the Navy right now. But you actually got a chance to do it, sir. So, what did engineering teach you about leadership?
Well, I will tell you the first thing that Georgia Tech taught me was a lot of humbleness.
Yes.
Learning how to develop a process and be humble.
Mm,
Most of the folks, the alumni that have survived there, and we always call it survival. Most of the folks that have survived there have been humbled at some point or another. And
yes.
everybody comes out of high school and they're the top student and all those great things, and then you
Yeah.
get thrown in, and it's the old story of look left and look right, and well, one or two you won't be here at the end of the year, and that was absolutely true. And
Yes.
so it's one of those things where it taught me humbleness, and from that
Mm,
point forward, that carried me throughout my career on being humble, but also being prepared and learning how to be prepared and come up with a process. And that's what I do now, and the things that I do now as a consultant and
mm,
working with other people all the way through my career in the Navy as well as in engineering as fanatics was always have a process, because that
yes.
process is ultimately going to get you through what it is you're trying to get done. And that's what I
Wow.
stuck with. And that's what got me through Georgia Tech and beyond and everything else.
That is a very, very important leadership lesson. Thank you so much for sharing, sir. Now, I understand you first put on command at HSL 42. What
Yes.
changed inside of you? What does no one tell you about becoming a commanding officer?
I think it's the weight of the responsibility of doing it. Fortunately for us in aviation and now even on the ships, you do what's called a fleet up, where you start as the XO or second in charge, and then
Hmm.
you fleet up to be the commanding officer. And so you get a chance to kind of sit side saddle in the second seat and watch
Yes.
what's happening. And even then, it's good and you learn a lot. And I had some great COs that I worked for as XO. But when you ultimately take over in the seat, as you just mentioned, that ultimate responsibility comes to you. And what I think you realize is the final decision is yours. It's one
Hmm.
of those things where, whether you're sending people on deployment or you're on a deployment, you have to talk to folks about orders and things that may
Yes.
or may not work for them and their family. And then ultimately, the one thing that most commanding officers are tough on is non-judicial punishment. When folks don't follow the rules or do things, you
Yes.
have to dish that out. And and it's unfortunate in some cases, but good order and discipline requires that you do that. And
Mm,
in a lot of cases, you're affecting folks and their families and their careers when you do that. So those are probably the three things, the deployments and the orders that you have to give in some cases to put people in
yes.
harm's way, as well as the non-judicial punishment, how it affects people and their families.
Absolutely. And man, what a career that is. I remember when I was selected to command. I mean, it's very exciting, it's thrilling, but challenging, but it's also quite, I don't know. I guess the most joy I had was to really see my sailor promote. There was nothing quite
Yep,
like that, but definitely
absolutely.
some real challenges. What do you believe, sir? What is one of the greatest lessons you learn in command?
Um, you know, I think the biggest one is be careful what you say. I had my mass chiefs and even the some of the other folks tell me that, say, hey, you know, because you're in charge, you're the person, you're the guy or the girl in charge. Be
Yes.
careful what you say, because people will take things literally because you are in charge. And I had that
Yes.
happen, and it's a funny story. My air crewmen, great guys and girls that we flew with throughout in the community as a helo pilot. I walked in their shop one day, and they had some stuff going on in there, and I just kind of looked around and looked at one of the walls, and it was a little discolored, and I made mention. I said, hey, you probably should touch the wall up over here. And their senior chief, who's retired master chief now, comes back to my office about a day later and goes, hey, sir, let's go down to the shop. I want you to see, the guys painted the shop. They painted the room. I was like, what
Right?
are you talking about? So I didn't say that right away. I said,
Yes.
okay. And we walked down and I looked and they were standing proud to present the room to me. And it was great.
Yes.
And I congratulated them and all that. As we walked back to my office, the scene chief at the time said, "Sir, you didn't tell them to paint the room, did you?" I was like, no, I didn't. I just mentioned the discoloration of some of
Yes.
the areas there. So I learned that lesson, that what you say kind of can be taken in
Yes.
many different ways. And I especially learned that and made sure I didn't say that on Iwo Jima when we got a ship that's 3 football fields long and started talking about painting, because
Yes.
my bosun's mates and all the other guys and first lieutenant would have killed me trying to do that.
Yes.
But so you have to be very careful in what you say.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is really, really funny. Especially I remember when I was in boot camp as a seaman recruit. Man, I had such great respect, admiration for
Yeah.
senior
Oh yeah.
officers, especially the flag. It was just crazy. But wow. But what about something? What was one of the most challenging experience for you as a commanding officer? It doesn't matter which command tool you use.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, very different between the two. One, commanding a squadron of 380 people versus a ship with 16 departments and,
Yes.
all the Marines and all the other stuff, aircraft and ships and things. I think the most challenging in both cases is just the coordination and making sure that we're doing what we have to do. I mean,
Yes.
I had, one instance, we were going across the Atlantic when I first took over the ship. Um, Probably a weekend. I took over just before Christmas, and we're going across the Atlantic, and we hit a storm, and then I had to make a
Mm,
decision on how we're going to transit the storm and not damage
yes.
aircraft and do things, but we still had to get somewhere on time,
Mhm.
and so we had to slow down, and we had some things get damaged, nothing major, but we did have some damage because of the storm, but that was probably the one time I realized, holy smokes, I'm in charge and I'm the guy that's making the ultimate
Yes.
decision on what we're going to do. And so that one for me was kind of eye opening, because at the time, again, as the XO, you're like, oh, what's the
Yes.
captain going to do? But now as the captain,
You're
I
it.
get to make the decision. And
Yes.
again, we survived, obviously, no damage, no significant damage, I should say. We did have some things
Yes.
that got broken, but ultimately at the end of that deployment of 8 months, we came home with every sailor, no lost aircraft, and no major
Yes.
injuries or anything like that. So it was a successful deployment for us.
Was that when, sir, you realize kind of the weight of command, because that is quite real?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Because that point forward, as we're doing things, transiting the Suez and down in off of Yemen and doing evacuations and things like that, you start to realize, this is real. Your orders come directly, in some cases, from the president and his, the Joint Chiefs, and it's
Hmm.
not from, in the squadron I had a Commodore or something like that, but no. These
Yes.
are coming directly, and these are world affecting things that are happening, world
Yes.
influence and things that we're doing. So yeah,
Real
that
life.
it became real. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I know for those who don't understand this, we do a lot of exercises in the Navy. I guess the other branches too. But when it's real life, I mean, to make sure this is real life, this is not an exercise. So you've got to
Oh
put your
yeah.
training into place. Now,
Oh
let
yeah.
me ask you this. So throughout your two tours of command, have you ever lost a sailor?
Fortunately, no, I did not. I've
Good,
not
good,
lost any
good.
sailors during my time in command as XO or CO.
Thank
Honestly.
God
So
for that. Yes.
yes, definitely very fortunate in that, and a lot of that has to do with the great leaders that worked with and for me when I was XO and CO, even when I
Yes.
was department head. Really,
Yes.
really good sailors, and they, that leadership team, made sure we paid attention to detail in a
Yes.
very, very dangerous environment, especially if you're talking about flying a helicopter off a single spot ship,
Mm,
because I wasn't a carrier guy, I was a frigate cruiser destroyer guy. So we're talking about single
yes.
spot landings on the back of that little tiny thing right there
Yeah.
that at night
This
looks
one.
like a post yeah, looks like a postage stamp. That was after one of
Yes.
our rescues. As a matter of fact, we did a rescue 100 miles away from the ship during a tropical storm. But so it's just a lot of different things that go on, but very fortunate we didn't lose anyone in either one of my tours.
Sure, and I need to find it. You take a lot of great picture. There was a picture I saw. It was a landing. It looks like it was extremely dangerous and the weather wasn't right. I'm going to find it, but man, this can be kind of scary. I think people
It-
who are not in the Navy, they don't understand how it's really a matter of life and death many times when you are in
yeah.
uniform.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's training though. I mean, it's just one of those things where you train, and over
Yes.
time you train and you get used to it. It's like it's playing sports. Obviously, I grew up playing sports, and a lot of people have done that. But repetition over time, muscle memory and those types of things, and a lot of training, and again, a lot of people support you to do that.
Yes.
Get you to that point to where it's never a comfortable thing, but at the
Yes.
same time, you still, figure out, okay, I got to get done.
Yeah.
That is not me. I just want you to tell that is actually not me, but
Yes.
that I have been in that situation many, many times. That's personally
Crazy,
not me, but that's not uncommon. I will tell you that
man.
right now.
This looks
But
so dangerous. My goodness.
yeah, that's about 15 feet, as a caption said.
Wow.
They're 15 feet off the water because I was on a frigate. But yeah, that
Yes.
frigate or destroyer, either one of them. But yeah, you're low, and again, it's a single spot ship. It's not the we
Yes.
used to always joke with our buddies that flew on the carriers. It's not the luxury of flying on the
Yes.
carrier, landing, and
Yeah.
although
Big.
when I was on Evo, I definitely appreciated the ride because
Yes.
it was definitely a lot better than one of those small boys.
Yeah. I can't imagine. And one thing I wanted to ask if you're willing to share, sir. Are there maybe one mistake you are willing to share that you made early in command that kind of shaped how you led afterward?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. I think, maybe from a mistake standpoint, I don't know that there was anything specific. Again, like I said earlier, being careful about what I said around folks and doing things. But,
Yes.
um, you know, from a mistake standpoint, um, not a ton of things, fortunately.
Good.
There were some calls that I made that we could have done better on. Didn't get us in any trouble, but I wouldn't call them mistakes. I would call them resets, if you
Yes.
want to say that. But yeah, from a mistake standpoint, I mean, we had some close calls,
Yes.
but most people call them learning experiences. I think that's what we'll
Yes.
call them.
Yes, sir. And I think your mindset really has a lot to do with how you get back up whenever you fall. But what did stepping into such huge responsibility feel like, and how did you go into it, especially on the EOG? That was a considerable command.
Yeah, I mean, I think you take for me again because we did the fleet up. I mean, I think that's probably the most comfortable thing for me from a comfort standpoint. The fact that I stepped into something that I was already there for a year and a half to be able to kind of promote up into. I used to be amazed at before the ships did it, they would just have a guy just jump in, a guy or girl just jump in and
Ah,
be the commanding officer of a ship that
mm,
they didn't know a single person on the ship until they
yes.
got there. They may have known a few people, but they didn't know the rhythm, the
Mhm.
culture, or anything about the ship. And so for me, fortunately, I had that year and a half working for
Yes.
a great CEO in Jim McGovern, who taught me a ton about amphibious ships because again, I
Mhm.
had done the cruiser destroyer frigate world, and so he taught me. We got a ship, we got aircraft, 31 aircraft. We also have this thing in the back where we drop the back out and we start lowering our boats out and putting Marines and all their equipment in
Wow.
and out of the ship. All of those things, which I had never done before.
Yes.
So for me, it was a great learning experience. And I think that ultimately allowed me to settle in and be more comfortable with what I was doing. I never was comfortable in any day I was in command
Yes.
because again, there's so much going on that you have to stay on your toes. But I relied on the crew. I had phenomenal crew. I mean, I say this
Wow.
today, and I keep up with all of them, via Facebook and LinkedIn,
Yes.
and they're all promoting and doing great things. But, you know, I jokingly tell, and it's not a joke, it's the truth. I tell all of my folks, my best tour that I had in the Navy was as a CEO of Iwo Jima, as an
Yes.
aviator, and most aviators are shocked when you say that, but it was the truth. And
LHD7.
so, it was so much, and I say fun, and the surface guys don't like that term, but I loved it
Yes.
because, it was great responsibility, and the crew responded, and we did great things. And again, like I said, we didn't have any mishaps, and it was a really, really great deployment, 8-month deployment.
Outstanding. I remember I was deployed on the LHD-2 USS Essex. So
Yes, yeah,
part of
had a
the
couple
family.
of friends who've had command of that great ship as well.
I was looking for my command cap. I have it here somewhere, but I can't find it. But yeah,
Yeah,
amphibious warfare, there's really nothing like it.
no,
But, so you've led over 3,000 sailors, 3,250 sailors, no,
hmm
and Marines. Let's not forget our Marines.
absolutely,
They always need a ride from the Navy for some reason. But you are also over, sorry, a budget of over $320 million operating the budget.
yeah.
What was kind of the difference between managing and commanding? What did you learn?
Well, I mean, I think when you use the term managing, it's you're talking about doing, working with people to do a specific thing, or
Yes.
manage a specific task. Whereas commanding or leading in charge of people and things, um, in some instances, you have to convince people to do things they don't want to do. I mean,
Yes.
there's sometimes in management, people can get away with, if somebody says they don't want to do it, well, I guess they fire them. But
Yeah.
you can get somebody else to do it. But in the military, people may say they don't want to do it, but ultimately the mission has to get done. As I mentioned
Yes.
before, you're talking about orders from me, and in the case of EWO, directly from the president or the Joint Chiefs, or
Hmm.
Fifth Fleet, where we were at the time. So you know you have to convince people to do things, especially from a deployment and a timing standpoint. I mean,
Yes.
I would say we had the most arduous work of it. Everybody's going to say that, oh my goodness, it was so
Wow.
tough for us when we started. But, when I got to EWO, we were in dry dock. We went from dry dock to all of the workups for the ship and getting the ship underway. We had an in-serve inspection, which is a
Mm.
huge, inspection that ships only get it, every so often, to make
Yeah.
sure the ship's at minimum standards. Full workups, all those things, with the Marines. And then we did a home port shift
Mm.
from Norfolk down to Jacksonville. And then we did an 8-month deployment, and I came back as a CO. We also did a pier side availability. So I got a full spectrum in 3 years as a
Wow.
SWO that most SWOs, some of them don't get ever. But I
Yes.
got a chance
Yes.
to do that. So, and I appreciate it. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It was a great challenge for me. But it's one of those things where you learn to appreciate what's going on and the people that you work with and work for you.
Wow, that is really wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about leading through complexity and crisis, because
Yeah.
during the Yemen evacuation and several of
hmm
the European crisis responses you've done, how did you make calm decision when everything was urgent and chaos all around you?
Yeah, the Yemen evacuation, it was so interesting because we're sitting off the coast, and we had been preparing for that because things were going south, a
Mm.
lot over there. And we sat there. In the military, they have this thing called beer days, and we ended up doing two of them. So, and that's when you don't pull in for like 90 plus days. So we got
Mm.
two of those. So we were underway for, consecutive 90 days
Wow.
periods, waiting on something to happen. And ultimately it did. We ended up doing the evacuation and supporting it. It was a peaceful evacuation, thank goodness, but we
Mhm.
were able to support that. And everything went well. I just remember being on the bridge when we launched the aircraft in support of it, and telling one of the brand new officer of the decks, I told her, I said, depending on how this thing goes, this may be this may be something you remember in the annals of history as you
Yes.
grow up and tell your kids later on in life that you were part of this. And fortunately, everything went well.
Wow.
But in that and in any other crisis, the hurricane things that we did after I left EWO and was here in Jacksonville, supporting 5 hurricanes in 2 years.
Wow.
Uh, the and evacuating bases and the people and everyone around here, in the southeastern area. Ultimately, you rely on your people. I mean,
Hmm.
again, everything in leadership and what you do is how you relate and you work with the people that and how they interact and work with you. Listen to the subject matter experts on those things, because again, in my world, as an aviator, I'm relying on the folks that are managing the flight deck, the launch Harriers and the Ospreys and the other things that we had out there. We have the other ships and things, boats on the bottom of the ship that we're working off of. So I'm relying on my subject matter experts to do their job. Uh,
Yes.
and trusting that they will do that and prioritizing things and delegating. But I think the biggest thing is to stay out of the weeds. If you're in charge, you got to stay out of the weeds. A lot of people will go down a rabbit hole and get into something, and all of a sudden the big picture of what's supposed to happen bypasses them. And once that happens, if you aren't quick enough to get it back, you'll never get it back. So that's what I was always cognizant of, being able to do that.
Wow, that is powerful. For those who are listening right now, definitely this is worth your time on this podcast, if only to know the difference. Because I believe some people, sometimes even in the military, they have a lot of trouble delegating. Because for example, me, right, I'm an information warfare officer. As a junior officer, instant JG, even lieutenant, I am very tactical, hands-on. I am the expert in what I do. So when I became a lieutenant commander, I had to kind of switch over to becoming more of a leader, right? And not just leading people in my own designator, but from the information warfare designator across the board, like intel officers and creepies and space guys and all of that. So it was quite a transition. And for those who are listening right now, what would you advise them they do to learn how to properly delegate and not be, trying to do everything themselves, but really trusting their people and the team, or at least giving them space to learn, make mistake if they have to, but get better at their job and not doing it for them.
I think that's it in a nutshell. It's a combination of trust. So, for me, it's learning, who you work with and who works for you, and trusting them and trusting what they do. And then also giving them the opportunity to do their job. I used to always enjoy the fact that, the folks who work for me, when they left or when I left, it's like, hey, sir, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do my job. Because, I feel like that's their job and that's what they're supposed to do. And I want to make sure that they do it. I'll hold them accountable for it. But that's probably the biggest thing as a leader is making sure that your people can do their job, because that's what they're there for. That's what they want to do. And I think they get more of an appreciation out of that because they're able to do their job. So when you're a leader, a young leader, or even on, someone more senior, you have to build that trust, though. That's the thing. And a lot of that comes with relationships and conversations. And if you can have conversations, professional or personal conversations with people, you get to learn people, you get to understand them. I always used to say the old term, you figure out what makes people tick. So you kind of understand, you can tell when somebody's having a bad day. And a lot of times that's important, because if you're doing something and it's a hot situation and, this person's having a bad day, you kind of know when you got to step in and you got to say something or do something. But you got to know your people. That's really the bottom line.
That is really powerful. So I would appreciate that you had the opportunity to flip up from the XO to the CEO. So I guess as a brand new XO, brand new command, how do you build trust fast in high stakes environment?
I would say I used to always tell my department heads, because I didn't learn this, but I watched this happen. You can't roll up in somewhere thinking you know everything just because you're the guy that's maybe senior to somebody. And when you do that and you roll in there, if you're starting to tell somebody, well, based on your previous experience, well, this is, this probably isn't right. We need to do it a different way or something like that. You just told that person they don't know what they're doing. And that person, that may be their process or how they're doing their job. So now you've insulted them, quite frankly. And I watched that happen a lot. So my golden rule was, when I used to tell my department heads, is, hey, you're going to go in this department. Don't roll in there telling people what to do. You need to learn the process. Now, there may be a different way to do it, and you may find a better way to do it, but you got to work with them and figure out how to get to that sweet spot, because you got to get buy-in. And that's really it. You got to get buy-in. And so, again, as the XO, when I got to EWO, we were in dry dock in Norfolk, and the ship was
just a moment, sir. Sorry, sir. We lost you there for just a second. You were saying as an XO in dry dock.
Yeah, so as XO, when I was on EWO, we were in dry dock in Norfolk, and so I could literally walk in and touch the bottom of the ship. It was crazy. So, and I'd never seen that before. I'd seen it, but not experienced it. And so I
Yes.
walk in and it's the middle of June, July, and the ship's there and been there about 6 months. And I'm like, what have I got myself into?
Wow.
But you get in there and you have to figure out what's happening. I had to catch up because
Yes.
they're not gonna wait on me. So I had to catch up with what's happening and what they're
Man.
doing. But it was an experience. But I was able to rely on the team that was there, listen,
Mhm.
learn. I call it, the old phrase MBWA, management by walking around. I
Yes.
walked around, I asked a lot of questions, I met people, learned faces, names, and places. And
Mm.
ultimately, because they realized that I was interested and wanted to learn, those same young sailors, young and old sailors,
Yes.
taught me. And the same thing happened in the squadron.
Mm.
The chiefs and the junior sailors, the folks that taught me the ins and outs of the aircraft, the same thing happened on the ship. And
Wow.
so that became a mutual respect because they knew that I cared about what was happening with us and ultimately wanted us to be successful.
Man, that's really leading with humility. It's powerful. But in these high stakes environments, sir, what framework did you use to prioritize when everything seems to be mission critical?
I mean, again, he goes back to just the basics. You go back to the basics. What are the standards? What are the rules? Because when things may not go as planned,
Hmm.
but you have to have a plan, right? That
Yes.
no matter what is said, you have to start with it. If you don't start with a plan, you're already in trouble, right? So you start with a plan. Here's where we're going. You're going to probably deviate at some point from that plan, but as you step through it, and that's where your leadership and experience and relying on others comes into
Yes.
play as well, because other people may have seen experiences or things like that. You have to be willing and humble enough to listen to them,
Mm.
and say, "Yeah, sir, I've seen this. I don't know about that," and
Yes.
talk it through if you have time to talk it through. But it's crisis situations happen. Uh, I think the ones that get resolved because people in charge listen and they take
Hmm.
in inputs. The ones that sometimes don't go so well is because they think they know every damn
Yes.
thing, and they end up in trouble.
Wow. Great, great, great wisdom. Let's talk about both of your books. So you are a serial
Sure,
best-selling author. Let's take teams first. And I really
sure.
love this because you use it as an acronym, team, for training,
Mhm.
education, and mentorship. Why did you think this book needed to be written?
So, when again, just as I took over the ship, I'm transiting. My command master chief has Lincoln on leadership, and he asked me, "Sir, have you read this book?" And I was like, Master Chief, I said, I'm a pilot and an engineer. I said, there's two things I do not like reading. I said that as an engineer and as a pilot, I don't like reading books. I said I read books, but I'm not going to read a book like that on leadership. I mean, not trying to be arrogant or anything, but I'm like, I don't need anybody else to tell me how to do leadership when I got to kind of work with you guys and do what I got to do. Uh, I wasn't going to do that. But I read the book. I read a couple of chapters, and as I read them, I was like, yeah, I kind of do that, and that's kind of good. That's pretty good. But as I read the first couple of chapters, I'm already doing most of the stuff. But the
And
problem with
which
me with
which
it
which book
was
was that, sir?
Lincoln on leadership.
Oh, Lincoln. Yes, yes.
Yeah, but the problem with me was the book was like this big, and I don't have time as a CEO to read a book this big, and
Yes.
and I'm like, it's just too much, and it didn't really, in my opinion, it said a lot and it told a lot,
Hmm.
but I'm like, well, there's
Not
points to it, but you
practical.
got to get to the point.
Yes.
So, and so as I set out to write the two books that I wrote, I wanted them to be very succinct and to the point of, hey, here's an experience that I had. Here's a way
Hmm.
that you can learn from these experiences,
Yes.
and take it from there. And so
Mm.
each chapter in both books, none of the chapters more than 5 or 6 pages,
Yes.
because it's a topic, it's an experience,
Hmm.
it's something that I've learned or someone else has learned, and you take it for what it's worth. But I didn't need to read 40 or 80 pages to tell me something. I don't need that because
Yes.
I'm an engineer. I like pictures.
Straight to the point.
Yeah, I like pictures. I don't want to deal with all the other stuff.
Well, so this is really good because again, I love the acronym you have used. So it's training, education, and mentorship. What is the
Sure.
difference there?
So, when you start talking about the three, and I, in both books, I had a purpose, again, like I mentioned earlier, for what I
Hmm.
wanted to do. I wanted to uh, pass forward the lessons learned that I had gotten out of the 29 years that I was in the Navy
Yes.
to, move it forward. I had the book came about because one of my former employees, when I was at the region, challenged me to put my lessons learned on paper as he's listening to
Mm.
me, mentor folks in my office every day. And I told him that same thing. I said, Robert, I'm a pilot and an engineer. I don't like to read and I don't like to write and I like pictures. I'm not doing all this stuff. But ultimately, I did, and so I put the words down on paper. But so I ended up with the acronym between the two books. So training,
Mm.
from my perspective, training is you kind of teaching, someone something that they don't know, right?
Yes.
If you're talking about education, then you're sharing your stories or your kind of experiences on things. So you're training someone in something they don't know. But as an educator, I call myself a third generation educator. My grandmother, my mother, and my sister are all educators and teachers. You're
Wow.
teaching people something that you have experienced in life or something that they need to get to. And then the mentorship part is guiding people through their journey, their specific journey, because everybody's journey is different. But you
Yes.
use that based on your previous experiences in education and training. So they
Mm.
kind of all tie together with those three. And so that was the first book, and that's the one I launched, and I kind of did that and held off to the other things.
Wow. So, what is the difference, sir, between mentorship and supervising? Because I think a lot of new leaders confuse the two.
Yeah. So again, the mentoring piece is you're talking about the total person thing.
Mhm.
You have to be willing to dive in and learn about the person, the family, their history, their goals, where they're trying to get
Yes.
to, to help them get to that point. Now, I always, used to tell people mentoring is great, but it's got to work both ways. So the person that's being mentored also has to be willing to be mentored,
Mm.
and so. Um, if that comes about, it's always usually very successful for that individual when that happens.
Yes.
But the difference, in my opinion, between mentoring and supervising is supervisors just going to say, "Hey, go do your job."
Yes.
They may not have a vested interest in your success. They probably do because your success is probably part of their success. But at
Yes.
the same time, they may not have as much of a vested interest in and I wouldn't even say your career because they probably
Hmm.
do to some extent. But the mentoring piece takes into account all of those things
Yes.
in terms of helping you out individually.
Wow, insightful. And one of your most famous quotes here is, no, you talk a lot about giving the group what it needs, but
Yeah,
not what you want to give. Can you
yeah,
unpack that for us, sir?
sure. Yeah, that's more of a selflessness type quote. That's one of the quotes from Carl Lawson, who's the basketball coach at Duke University, women's
Mm.
basketball coach, and she has some great quotes, by the way. But she,
Yes.
and I use that quote as one in the book and the chapter to talk about being a selfless leader, and you as a leader need to ensure that what it is that you're giving is for the benefit of the team.
Mm.
You can say, hey, we want to do well and we want to do this and we want to do that. But if you aren't willing to give of yourself to make sure the individuals are successful for the team, then you're not going to probably be successful. I
Yes.
used to always, I was, from my perspective, I would always ask my sailors for goals, personal and professional goals. And those
Hmm.
personal professional goals were things that they wanted to do, but also things that eventually would help the ship do better because they
Yes.
got smarter, they were better in what they were doing. And
Mm.
so, what I would always say is when they won, we won. And the
Yes.
ship did phenomenal things because each sailor and Marine got better at professional lives, some
Hmm.
on the personal lives, in terms of working out and mental
Yes.
health and all those things. All those things were a part of that package, that complete
Mm.
package. And so when you tie all those things together, we as a team were
Yes.
successful because of that.
That is really powerful. So, one more question about your book, Tim, for
Sure.
the junior officer who are listening right now, and no, like I did a long time ago, they start to kind of
Hmm.
transition to becoming a new leader, what
Yeah.
would you advise them to do? What are 3 things they should think about doing if they wanted to have a high performing team? How do you build that?
Let's see. Hire the person and not the skill. That's one that I always use.
Mm,
It's a chapter in the book. What that means there is, you need to hire somebody that you can work with,
yes.
that can work within the team, has a personality to drive the meeting. They may be the smartest person in the world with no
Hmm.
personality. I've seen a lot of those,
Yes.
but that person's not going to help your team a lot. They're going to come up with some ideas, but if they can't work and interact with the team, they're of no
Hmm.
use to you. So
Yes.
I always say hire the person and not the skill.
Powerful.
In engineering, when I was at Fanatics, and even on the ship, everybody comes in with the same basic qualifications. If you're an officer, you got commission. If you're a pilot, you got wing,
Hmm.
and you did that. And engineers, when I was interviewing engineers, everybody's resume, they're all degreed
Yeah.
engineers.
Yeah.
But now I got to figure out who and what's going to work well with my team and work with me.
Yes.
Um,
Cultural
the
fitness.
second one,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. The second one would be some level of diversity and background and expertise, because
Hmm.
if you're hiring the same people and you're comfortable with that person, and they are thinking like you're not getting any damn thing done, because you're not going to be a high performing team, because you're going to hit a limit and a ceiling. So people with different backgrounds, people with different uh, perspectives, bring all those things into the team and help the team to
Mm.
think differently. And it happened to me all the time. I was
Yes.
even on the bridge. I've got, junior sailors. We're talking about things and they just make a recommendation. And it's like, wow, never thought of that, but yeah, let's try it.
Wow.
Right. And so it happens all the time, and
Hmm.
people discount that. So think about the people. So hire the person, not the skill,
Yes.
diverse backgrounds. And then the last one is they got to be good communicators. They got to be able to
Communication.
talk and listen,
Yes.
because if they can't do both, then you're not going to get your message across. And when I was at Fanatics, that was the biggest thing for me. My engineers had to be able to be good communicators, um,
Mm.
working with the GMs and the folks that were there. And the same thing with in the military environment. If
Yes.
you can't communicate your message or get your point across, then you may have great ideas, but they're not going
Yes.
to happen if you can't talk them through.
Wow. This is great for the transition. So we talked about building high performing team in your book team, and now let's switch over to lead. How do
Sure.
you develop leaders? Right, going from team building to actually leading, empowering, and developing, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the most important thing for a leader. Part of the reason why I do this podcast, because my primary mentor, Dr. Maxwell, says, right, there is no success without succession. Right?
Yeah.
It's not just one thing for you to be a leader and to achieve great things. That's wonderful. But what about the people who are following behind you, right?
Yep.
So that's why I think this book is so critical. Why did you feel like there was a need for you to write yet another book about leadership, especially the developing part?
So I think that I would say the leadership, the team piece was more individual, personal growth, learning
Hmm.
about yourself and how to make yourself better. And then the lead, in writing lead, my focus there was more on individuals and how to improve their leadership skills, leading, how to learn how to lead, how to empower your people, and then how to
Yes.
develop other leaders. And I think that's where my head was with that. And again, as I mentioned before, I just didn't feel like there was a gap, a filler, a gap of some sort there that helped people to get to that point. Because again, everybody just talks about, hey, he'd be a great leader. Here's some of the things, but they
Hmm.
never talk about realistically how to do that. And
Yes.
so I always felt like I wanted to give that just from some of my examples and those things.
Okay, Captain, we have our first question from our live audience, and Daniel Young is
Sure.
a very active member of our tribe. He says, okay, Commander Gordon, actually, it's not Commander, it's Captain. I am a Commander, he's a Captain. But
That's
Captain,
okay. That's
Captain Gordon, you mentioned the mentor has a vested interest in the total person. In a high pressure environment, how do you keep that mentorship from becoming a crutch so the mentee still learns to build their own infrastructure? And then he says, how do you balance support with self reliance?
um
Interesting question.
becoming a crutch. So I don't know that there's a crutch per se when you say that in terms of pressure. I'm just trying to read the question. How do
Hmm.
you keep the mentorship from becoming a crutch? You know,
I think what is referring to, sir, is for the mentee to always rely on the mentor. Oh,
I
sir, did
got
I
you.
do it right?
Yeah.
Instead of just relying on their training and have self
Well, I mean,
confidence?
that's not necessarily mentor mentee. That
Yeah.
sounds like that's more of a supervisor relationship.
Yes.
But again, you know, because from my perspective, I'll share this and then I'll answer the question.
Yes, sir.
I work directly with one of my mentors, but the other mentor I never worked for.
Mhm.
And so you can learn in both cases. One of my mentors I deployed with for almost a year and a half in different time frames,
Yes.
and I continued to learn from that person. You know, but there comes a time, like as I mentioned earlier, the mentee has to want to learn.
Yes.
You know, if you're not evolving and not improving, the mentee and a mentor, I should say, a good mentor will tell you that. A
Mm-hmm.
good mentor is going to tell you if you're doing good, and they're also going to tell you if you're doing bad. If they don't tell you you're doing bad, there's not a good mentor. That's a cheerleader.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So the person needs to tell you when you're screwing up. And if that person is allowing you to not do well and not giving you guidance, direction, additional
Mm.
training, or whatever, then they're not a good mentor. There's, I don't want to use the term supervisor, but they're just
Yeah.
not helping. Let's just say that.
Huh. What What would you say, sir, is the difference between a mentor and a coach?
Very close, you know, again, very close in terms of what they do. I think in some instances, the coaches aren't as involved with the total person as a mentor is. You know, from
Mm-hmm.
a coaching standpoint, coach is going to guide you in a specific area and get you going to do that. And then they may step away and that's all they do.
Yes.
Mentors are going to involve themselves in your personal lives in terms of you and your family and what's vested interest in getting you to the next step. Coach may
Mm-hmm.
not do that, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, I don't, you know, you can look the definitions up,
Yes.
but I would say a coach is probably going to be the person that is for a specific skill, a specific skill set that you're trying to accomplish or get done, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the mentor that's trying to work the total person and get you beyond, you know, a certain aspect of what you're
Powerful.
doing.
And in your book, again, on leadership, we talk about empowerment. What does that actually mean in practice? Right? Because I've seen a lot of leaders that says, yeah, I empower my people, but in reality, they really are not. What does that entail?
Involvement. It's involving people at every level, you know, and
Yes.
I've mentioned this several times. It's, you know, if I am the captain of the ship and I have sailors and, junior Marines that are part of my ship and they're not
Mhm.
a part of making us successful, then I fail to empower them to do something. So, you know, I used to always talk about the importance when I did check-ins. This is the empowerment thing. When I did check-ins with my sailors, I told them how important it was to keep the ship clean. And here's why. Because if the ship and everybody that comes on the ship complains about having to keep the ship clean. But then I explained here's why it's important. Because if you're wiping down the handrails and you're wiping down the walls and you're mopping the floors, you're doing all these things that have to be done, the ship is a sanitary environment. And
Mm.
as we continue to evolve and that doesn't happen, people get sick. When people get sick, watches get missed. When watches
Yes.
get missed, people get tired. When people get tired, things break or don't get
Mm.
fixed. And when things break or don't get fixed, we have mishaps.
Yes.
That's the chain that we try to avoid. So that person who checks
Mm.
on board, brand new person, now they realize, oh, I'm empowered and I need to make sure that I'm doing a
Yes.
great job. Whatever my job happens to be, if it's
Mm-hmm.
cleaning the space, because somebody may walk by that space and touch that wall or that ladder or whatever happens to be, that bulkhead, and get
Yes.
sick because they didn't clean it. Now we've got people doing extra work. So everyone is empowered to do their job. That's what empowerment, why it's important.
Wow. And one more idea from your book, sir. You talk about leadership being multiplication, and I
Mhm.
believe that is true. So, how would someone multiply themselves correctly?
Um, from mentorship, from being a mentor. I mean, that from my perspective,
So,
uh, I felt like I was, multiplied because of the great mentors that I have, and
mhm.
I was able to do that and pass that on to others and have mentored, thousands of people along the way,
Yes.
whether it's through supporting them in promotions or commissionings or whatever it happens to be.
Hmm.
All of those things are, ways that you can multiply yourself and continue to push forward success
Wow.
for people.
Powerful. Okay, so we have only about 10 minutes left, so let me get to the
Sure,
last segment of podcast. I could be talking to
sure.
you, sir, for probably 2 or 3 more hours. There is so much to talk about
This
leadership.
is fun. This is
Yeah,
good stuff, though. It's just fun.
yeah, we barely scratch the surface. And thank you again, sir, for writing those 2 books. I hope you are
Sure.
working now on your third best-selling book. This is so important, especially for legacy, right? Because one of my dearest mentor, General Powell, is no longer with us, but I have his 2 books. I read them over and
Oh
over and
yeah.
over again. So
Yep.
even though he's no longer
They're
here,
right here. They're
he
right
is
here.
still
Yep.
speaking to us and still mentoring us long after he's gone. That is legacy,
Hmm.
and that's another reason why I'm forcing myself to write my next book. But having said that, sir, uh, what do you believe is the greatest lesson you have ever learned in life, in leadership, just in general?
You know, it's interesting because I learned it early. I learned it, going to college. I
Hmm.
learned that lesson early on. And I talk about it. I actually talk about it's one of the chapters in the book. It's patience without procrastination, and it's kind of
Wow.
a diverging type thing, right? So my dad and the folks that grew up with me or know my family. My dad's a very quiet guy, very patient guy, and
Hmm.
very humble guy. Did a remarkable things in his lifetime. Hall of Fame member at Morgan State University for football and track, among
Wow.
other things. But
Oh,
very patient person.
but we're still talking about all of them. It looks like champions run in your family. Who is this one?
That her birthday is today, as a matter of fact. So happy birthday to my baby. That's my daughter, Reese. Her
Yes.
birthday is actually today. She actually is turning that number on her jersey, number
I
22
believe she
today.
was
Her
much
birthday.
younger here.
And oh my Lord, have mercy. If she's watching this, she's gonna. But yeah, yeah. So she's at Georgia
But
State, graduating in May, and we'll go get her MBA. But yeah, happy birthday to her. I'm
that's
glad you showed that
legacy.
because I get
Yeah.
to say happy birthday to her.
That
But
is legacy, sir, from the
it
granddaddy
is.
to the granddaughter. It's
Absolutely, absolutely. But
powerful.
and my other daughter plays soccer as well, so
Yes.
we've got a lot of great history there. But
Wow.
the
Congratulations.
patience without procrastination piece came. The procrastination piece came from my mom. And before I
Mm,
left to go to college, she mentioned to me. She said, "Whatever you do, do not procrastinate in things that you're doing. Don't put things off. Get things done."
yes.
And so I learned to balance that. And when I say that lesson that I learned from that is
Mm.
at some point in time, you still there? Oh, there you are.
Yes, sir. I can hear you, but I cannot see you. At some point in time, we were saying,
You got me?
I can hear you, but I don't see you, sir. Can you double check your camera? Maybe turn off the video at the bottom left and turn it back on.
I can't understand what you're saying.
Oh, there is a camera button. I believe it's the bottom left of your screen. If you disable the camera and then turn it back on, maybe that will fix it.
Something about you said background. Your voice is scrambled, so I'm missing what you're saying.
Okay. This has. Let me try one thing, sir. I'm gonna get you off, and I'm gonna ask you to come back. All right, just 1 second. This is so good. I guess that's one of the risks you run when you do everything live. But uh, let's have the captain back. Wow, this is so powerful. Patience without procrastination. Should be back in just a moment. Man, I love doing these podcast live. Let me see if the. While we are waiting on Captain Gordon to come back, I believe what he's saying about patience without procrastination is so powerful. In life, you do have to be patient, and I think good things happen to those who are patient. But at the same time, you do not want to procrastinate. Whatever you can do today, you absolutely have to do it. If you have the ability to do it, you have the opportunity to do so. You have to get busy and you have to get it done. Do it for yourself. I like the philosophy of getting 1% better every single day. Uh, let me see. He's not coming back yet. Let me see if I can give Captain a quick call. Um, oh, this was so good. Here we go. He is back now. Oh, sir, I don't know what happened, but I can see you and I can hear you just
Yeah,
fine now.
yeah. Sorry
All
about it. I
right.
don't know
Thank
what
you.
happened. I got
I am gonna edit this before we put it on
you.
the
Okay,
all of
appreciate
the podcast. But yeah, we're talking about patience without procrastination.
it.
We're
Yeah.
talking about the
So
procrastination part.
essentially, when I left to go to college, my mom said, "Don't procrastinate," and I took that
Yes.
to heart. As I went to college, and from that point forward, I had to figure out, you got to be patient in some instances and do things, but at some point you got to make a decision and you got to do something. You got
Yes.
to happen, and I was able to do that. You know, throughout my career in college and in the military. But there's a fine line there, and that's probably the greatest lesson in everything that I've done because in a lot of folks, a lot of times when I'm working with folks, they're doing things, and I'm like, okay, we got to get going here. That's the patience.
Yes.
Got to get going. But for procrastination parts, you got to kind of let them do their thing. So it's a
Mm. That is very, very powerful. And for everybody listening right now live, I'm telling you, this is worth the price of admission. If you don't get anything else from this podcast, this could literally potentially change your life. So what do you believe, sir, is the secret to your success? You become an engineer, a pilot, a commander at sea. That is huge. I've been a commanding officer, but shore duty and sea duty, two completely different animals. And now you are retired, you're starting your own successful consulting firm. But uh, why do you believe you've been so successful in life, sir?
I mean, I think accepting the challenges, again, it's, I grew up with a family of I don't say overachievers, they're just achievers. They just did their thing and
Yes.
size of the family and great role models,
Mhm.
sisters, parents and all my other family members. Um,
Yes.
but because of that, it was expected that I was going to
Mm.
do well. And that level of expectation, I think, is probably the biggest thing. Uh,
Yes.
and accepting those challenges, the same thing that we push to our girls. My wife and I pushed our girls. She has the same mentality in the family that she grew up with as well.
Yes.
Accepting those challenges, working hard, and then excelling at them. Uh,
Mm.
from my perspective and for me, I got to enjoy what I'm doing. I think that's the secret
Yes.
to success. I love doing things. Uh, I've come to learn to love writing, even though I've
Hmm.
been an engineer, a guy that doesn't like to write and read and all that.
Yes.
But I've learned to love writing um, because I feel like I can pass something meaningful on to people.
Hmm.
Uh, but I got to enjoy what I'm doing. That's probably the
Wow.
secret.
Enjoy what you are doing. That is powerful. So, what are you learning this day, sir? I know leaders are learners. What are
Uh,
you learning?
I think again because I retired from the military and then from Fanatics a couple of years ago. I'm doing this consulting thing now, but
Hmm.
from my perspective, I think it's just learning how to take care of me and myself, and then
Yes.
passing that to my family.
Good.
40 straight years of college through the military, and then at
Yes.
Fanatics, and then stopping takes a toll on your body and your mind and those types of things.
Sure.
Um, I didn't have a ton of hobbies, didn't have a lot of time for hobbies. Once
Mm.
my body gave out from playing basketball and all the other things that most people do, and I didn't get into golf as much as I probably should.
Well,
But so I'm learning how to take care of myself. Is probably the biggest thing for me: diet, exercise, and I'm gonna try to do the golf thing. But I think that's for me is what I'm learning is just to take care of myself and then and passing that on
mm.
and we take care of each other.
Very good. And let me ask you, sir, who is the GOAT? You mentioned basketball. LeBron James or Michael Jordan? Who's the GOAT?
Why would you even ask that? There it is right there. Why would you
Yeah, I
ask
knew
that
it. I
question?
knew it.
I mean, you know, all the people don't jump on stats, and longevity is a good
Yes.
thing. It doesn't make you the GOAT. And
Yes.
longevity is
Yes.
the only reason why LeBron is not.
Yes.
There's no other reason. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I have to argue with my Gen Z daughter who doesn't know anything, but thinks she does know everything. But anyway, always fun. And you've also talked about transition, sir. What is maybe one advice you would give to people listening right now who are going to be transitioning from active duty military to civilian life?
You got to immerse yourself into whatever it is that you're going to do. Now, I have a lot of conversations with folks that are transitioning out of the
Mm-hmm.
military, and it's daunting. It's different, and
Yes.
so for them, it's something that, because I had the same apprehension when I was leaving, but and most people, I think most people don't stay in their first job, after
Mm-hmm.
military more than 2 years or so. I was fortunate enough with Fanatics to be there for 5 years with a great team that I work with and work for. But,
Yes.
I think it's just learning how to adapt. There's different leadership styles. They're certainly not a military environment, and you have to understand that going in. And a
Yes.
lot of, in the civilian world, a lot of people don't understand how military works, and the person that they're getting, they always have
True.
this is what this person's going to be like. So I try not to be that kind of person,
Yes.
even though I was fairly senior when I did leave. But at the same time, I think it's learning how to adapt, and you got to be adaptable and adjustable, and
Absolutely.
really hold yourself and step back.
Oh no, not again. Let's see. Huh.
Hey,
Okay. This wasn't too bad. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. If I could ask you, if you could choose three people, right, to have dinner with, they could
yeah.
be alive, dead, or even fictitious character. Who would you choose and why?
Oh man, that's a great question. So I'll start with Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
So Muhammad Ali, to me, is probably one of the greatest Americans that worldwide.
Yes.
That guy. I mean, I got a chance to meet him when I was a kid, in fourth, fifth grade. He had just won championship. That kind of tells my age, but he just
Yes.
in. But just a worldwide ambassador, and so many different things that he brought to the world. Quite frankly,
Mm-hmm.
in people's eyes to different things. Um, Barack Obama would be another one. Not
Yeah.
on the same level as Muhammad Ali, but more recently. And I actually got a chance to meet him in person as well as take orders from him when I was. He actually called, pretty cool. He called Christmas Day and talked to one of my sailors on the ship. And so
Wow, that's nice.
speak with him there. So it's pretty cool. But, so a lot of different things that he has done,
Yes.
first, and a lot of great conversations and insight from both of
Mm-hmm.
them. I think, I would love to have a conversation with the two of them. And the third one is a different one, is Benjamin Franklin.
Hmm.
Benjamin, if you look at the history of what Benjamin Franklin did in his life, and we did a tour in Philadelphia, my family and I were up in Philadelphia or in Boston, but Benjamin Franklin and all the things that he did,
Yeah.
probably, they talk about the father of our country. That
Yes.
Franklin probably has done more for this country early on than hardly anybody else, and all the different.
Yes.
You look up all the achievements that he did. Most of the other folks pale in comparison.
True. Wow, that is so powerful. And which book would you recommend outside of your own books that my audience reads?
So this is one that this is one that I picked up. I think I was in high school. Uh, yeah, I think it was maybe it was in high school or college.
Hmm.
Um, all I really need to know, I learned in kindergarten.
Yes.
Very basic So, and what that book is, it's kind of the way I wrote my books. As a matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
I loved it so much. Now, it was written in '86, so I was in college,
Yes.
but um, it talks about just that. All the things in life that you need to know, you actually learned in kindergarten. How to be nice,
Mm-hmm.
how to wash your hands, how to, be, take naps, you know, eat
Yes.
cookies, be friends, say please and thank you. All of those things that the world probably should have more of.
Mm-hmm.
That's the book. And that was a book that I kind of laughed and joked about, but I kind of lived my life through that book. Uh, and I used to give that book to my officers when they were leaving the squadron, as a gift, as a farewell gift, to make sure they didn't
Yes.
take it too seriously. But yeah, that's the book that I have read, and I kind of mold a lot.
Mm. Powerful. Yeah, that book was recommended on the podcast last year. Very, very powerful. We're going to make sure it's added to the digital library I have. Is there maybe, sir, a song or a movie or a book that will be like your life's theme or
Yeah.
anthem?
It's a funny one too. Happy by Pharrell.
Yes, I like
Yeah.
that one
So if you listen to the
a
lyrics
bit.
of that, and what's in that song, and I actually had it played when I retired. When my wife and daughter,
Wow.
I walked through the pipe and the shore. The band played Happy,
Yeah.
at the end of my retirement ceremony. Uh, but that song kind of encapsulates,
Yes.
who I am as a person. I always joke with people,
Yes.
if as long as I'm smiling, we're good. But if you don't see me smiling, it's probably so happy is who I am, and people may think, oh, it's
Beautiful.
full of BS, but that if you know me, that's who I am.
Wow.
But if you listen to the words of that song and some of the things that are in there, it's a motivating song,
Yes.
kind of who I
Powerful. And why should people read this book here?
am. Again, I say what I say. There's a lot of great stuff in that book to read, but mine is more condensed.
Yes. Beautiful. All right. We are coming toward the end of the show, sir. So, what can we do to add value back to you?
So, what I've decided to do with what I call phase 3 of my career in life is become a consultant and a leadership developer and working strategy.
Mhm.
So, what I would appreciate, folks, and I have clients, but me continuing to help people, because that's where I am, and where I am at this stage of my life and career, is
Yes.
working to do things to help people, whether it's individuals, strategic coaching to help them, improve their lives and lifestyles. Or if
Mhm.
it's teams, I've dealt with a lot of teams in different sizes, whether it's squadrons or ships or whatever, in industry.
Yes.
Um, but so that's what I'm doing now. I'm a consultant, and that's what I'm doing. That's my webpage there. But those are, if folks want to help me out, and some people that are, looking for uh, process, or helping them to get better and make their teams more efficient or more profitable, or
Mhm.
that's what I'm here to do. More than happy to talk with you. Go to my website. It's drgordonconsulting.com.
Yes.
DR is my initials, not doctor. But Dana Ricardo is my name. And so DR are the initials, although my
Very
call sign
good.
is doctor. So drgordonconsulting.com.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, sir. I know we are out of time. Can you give me a couple more minutes before we end?
Absolutely. I'm here.
Thank you, sir. This is such a great conversation. If you had one and only one day to live,
Hmm.
what would you have liked your final contribution to be?
Um, Probably, and this gets back to what I think is the biggest thing in life, being able to make sure people can communicate effectively with each other.
Yes.
Because I think that in and of itself is the problem with most of what's happening in the world, is people,
Yes.
when I say communicate, not just talking, but
Hmm.
effective communications, um, you know, productive communications, not just talking
Yes.
to each other, but having conversations that are meaningful, and sharing sharing what it is that they are trying to get done.
Yes.
If folks, you can always talk at somebody all day long and not have meaningful conversation. I think that's probably the biggest, if I could pass that along to.
Wow. And if you did have a magic wand and could solve any problem in the world, what is the one problem you would like to solve first thing tomorrow morning?
Ooh, first thing tomorrow morning. That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, when I go to bed and I wake up, the things in front of me are the most pertinent things.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I've never been a solver of world peace type person. That's not my mentality. I'm
Yeah.
not. I've always wanted to focus on what I can control. My mind has always been, I want to be able to, you know, focus and fix what I can control. I can't control the world because that communication thing I just talked about.
Yes.
Right. So from my perspective, whether it's a short-term goal, a long-term goal, a family goal,
Mhm.
ends, if I have clients, that's kind of where my head is in terms of when I wake up in the morning, where are we
Yes.
getting those things solved and what do I need to do to get,
Mm.
clear the path for those things to be successful. But I'm not a solve
Good.
the problem kind of guy. I just no.
No,
But
that makes a lot of sense. And if you could have the ear of every junior officers in the Navy right now for like 60 seconds, what would you tell them to do tomorrow morning?
take care of your people.
Take care of your people.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
Lieutenant,
it's kind of a cliche, but it's always, it never fails.
yes,
Never fails. If you take care of your people, they will take care of you. People say that all the time. It sounds cliche, but it's true. I mean, if
yes,
every place that one of my buddies said, "Happy birthday, Reese." No
yes.
matter where you have been in life, if you take care of your people, they will take care of you.
That is the best mentorship session I had before I became a commanding officer. My mentor told me, take care of the people, they will take care of your mission.
Yeah,
That is so true.
absolutely.
Well, Nate is asking, how did sport help develop you as a leader? And what was the impact it had on your life?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, sports has been a part of my life, so it has two different things. And if you'll indulge me, so
Please.
the very first one uh, taught me humility. So as a six
Mm.
in Pop Warner football, I got cut from my team.
No.
Yeah. And so what I learned there was consequences and repercussions. Either you're good or you're not. A lot of people don't learn that,
Mm.
but if you're good, but what it did for me is it gave me the drive and the desire to want to be successful. And I didn't want
Yes.
to have that feeling ever again. I made the team after that and I played for the next 8 or 10 years before I
Wow.
got too small to play football. But I was okay with that. I mean, but because that kind of drove me to want to continue to be successful. And then in high school, great basketball team, did great things my last 2 years, and we ended up losing the state championship my senior year. We were lower state champ. We
Hmm.
lost the state championship um, in Columbia. Disheartening for all of us. We had a great team and did some great things over the couple of years.
Yes.
Team was together from middle school through high school
Wow.
and did a lot of great things. But from a leadership standpoint, what that taught me then was, you know, as the point guard of the team, I need to do whatever it is to make sure my team is successful. And
Yes.
that kind of set me into this motion of giving what the team needs and those types
Mm.
that we've talked about earlier. So
Yes.
that's where my head has always been. It's like drive because I don't want to fail. Six
Yes.
year old, 18-year old, give what the team needs to be successful.
Now, I'm glad you said 18-year-old, sir. I don't think you were 18-year-old, but this is the youngest picture I could find of you. I believe it's you and your parents up there.
That was commissioning. So that was probably about 22 there. Yeah.
Okay. Close
Close
enough.
enough.
Yes. So the question I have for you, sir, is if you could go back and give a piece of advice to that guy right there, 17, 20-year-old
Mhm.
Dana, what would you say, standing at the edge of this incredible career you've had in the most powerful Navy in the world? What would you say to 17-year-old Dana?
Um, don't be afraid to explore, ask questions, uh,
Mm.
and be comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to.
Okay.
It's a cliche type thing. People say it all the time, but you have to understand what that means. You know, it's,
Yes.
you know, there are going to be times when you're going to be uncomfortable with what you do. I had a ton of them growing up
Mm-hmm.
throughout my career, but you have to be confident enough in yourself to say, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to get to. So,
Yes.
you got to kind of push the envelope to make sure you can get yourself there.
Well, so that was phenomenal. I could talk to you for another hour, but I know we're already like 15 minutes past the time. But if you have a couple more minutes, I want to end with a light round, right? Rapid fire. I'm going to ask a question, but I'm going to need very, very quick answers. Don't take too long to think. Can we do
Sure.
that, sir? Okay, let's do it. What is one word that defines great leadership?
One word.
Mhm.
Integrity.
Okay. Morning routine or practice that keeps you grounded?
The what now?
Morning routine or practice that keeps you
The
grounded?
morning routine. Oh, this is a lovely one. Every morning when I get up and my body aches, I lie down on the floor and I stretch for 20 minutes and I laugh because my dogs are looking at me like or stretching, which is what I,
Yes.
yes, that morning routine is
Okay.
what I do.
All right. What is a book or a quote that changed your life?
Um, book or quote? Um, I think that changed my life. I don't know. I would say the quote that I go by that I use the most is
Mhm.
nothing changes.
Wow.
And that is what I preach to my sailors, and that is what I believe. You know, if you want something to change or you want to make a difference, then
Yes.
you have to make a change. It's not nothing's going to change if you're walking down the road and you
Yes.
got to make a left or right or make a decision, but you got to make a change.
Wow. Powerful. And who inspires you most today?
Who inspires me most today? My family. They continue.
Yes.
Girls, my wife continue to inspire me. I mean, they continue to do great things and continue to promote and you know
Yes.
things that they do. So that's the inspiration that I get. I mean, my parents were inspirations to me. They both passed away.
Yes.
But my family, my wife and my girls.
And what is the leadership habit you refuse to compromise on?
Integrity.
And what do you think is a question that every leader should ask themselves frequently?
Am I doing enough to take care of my team?
Hmm. Always back to people. Okay, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Oh, let's see. What did I want to be? Well, I had a couple of things.
Helicopter pilot?
No, not well. It depends on what level of kid,
Yeah.
but no. Initially, you know, I wanted to be obviously a basketball player. That didn't happen because
Okay. Well, you played in high school, so
I
that's
did,
good.
but I stopped growing. You know, a five at the time, a 5'9" or 5'8", 145-pound guard. Although I could dunk a
Yes.
basketball, was just not there for me at the time. But yeah, it just didn't happen.
Okay. Well, you played in high school. I didn't, so
Yeah,
that's good. Congratulations. All right. Three adjective describing you as a child.
inquisitive. Uh, hmm, rambunctious.
Okay. One more.
And oh man, I don't know what the third one would be. Um,
It looks like you were a geek, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know
looks
about
like one.
yeah, I don't know about the third one, but I mean, yeah, I was
Engineer, you.
yeah, inquisitive, it's
Yeah.
engineering,
Yeah.
and
what
bunch
about
at the same time.
as an adult, sir?
Um, Probably all the same. I mean, I'm still
Yes.
inquisitive. I'm not quite as rambunctious because I'm moving a little slower, but still want to learn and still trying to learn.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I think it's the same. Those two. Um,
Good.
I would say energetic, but that maybe as a kid, but not right now.
Yes. All right. I always like to answer with, oh, actually, before I do, is there a question, sir, I should have asked you? I didn't get a chance to ask before we
No,
finish
this
up.
has been great. This has been absolutely
Fantastic. All
I
right.
enjoy.
Fantastic. So let me ask you this one then, because I like to end on a very positive note. What is one thing you are feeling optimistic about these days?
One thing I'm feeling optimistic about. Um, I will tell you that having watched the generations of folks grow up, and I got a chance to do that on EWO. I mean, I had from 18-year-olds to 40-something-year-olds on the ship, so I watched multiple.
Wow.
And so the continued growth, education, and knowledge of folks as they continue to work their way through,
Yes.
the things that my girls know, the things that their friends know and they're doing are far beyond, things that I learned growing up. So I think
Yes.
that's more than anything inspirational for me to know that even with this AI stuff out there, that still learning and growing, and we still have that
Wow.
optimism.
Well, thank you so much, Captain. And this is the very last one, I promise. One word that represents our shared experience on this podcast today.
One word?
Yes, sir.
Enjoyable. I loved it. This
Good.
is great. I really enjoyed this, man. I mean, I really
Fantastic.
appreciate the invite, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I'm always very, very grateful. So, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, that was Captain Dana Gordon, U.S. Navy retired. Thank you, sir, for your service
Appreciate
and
it.
for really honoring us with your presence on this podcast. Appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much. I appreciate the time.
Wow. All right, everyone. I want to thank all of you for watching and those who've asked questions that the captain was able to answer live. And Daniel says, great session. So I do appreciate that. So this is it for today. Tomorrow, I am going to have Captain Marcus Delaney from the U.S. Coast Guard. And we're going to have a leadership discussion just like the one I had with Captain Gordon today. I hope you guys can join us. So until tomorrow, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for watching again. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If today's episode added value to your leadership journey, be sure to subscribe, share, and join us again for more wisdom nuggets on how to lead better and achieve greater success. Remember, leadership is the most critical skill of our time. The world will always need leaders to inspire others, drive innovation, and execute meaningful strategy. So why not count yourself among the bold leaders shaping the 21st century? Until next time, stay inspired, stay committed, and keep leading with excellence.